On today's show, the Clippers get a win against the Miami Heat on the second night of a back-to-back after a loss to the New Orleans Pelicans, even without Kawhi Leonard and Norman Powell. Why, or how, I should say, did they get this win, and what did they say about three key players of the Clippers roster? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA. Been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the team for 5 years on my own personal LA sports-centric YouTube channel known as Dime Dropper, and 3 years right here on Locked On Clippers. Subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell so you can know every single time we post a video, and of course you can listen wherever you get your podcasts, and we now have a newsletter, the Locked On Clippers newsletter written by yours truly at lockedondaily.com. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the win over the Miami Heat, 119-104 at the Kaseya Center, which gives us a season sweep over the Heat, and the performances of Bogdan Bogdanovic, Ivica Zubac, and James Harden led the way. So we're going to be talking about it all, starting with, I said it, and I'm going to say it again. By the way, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Ladies and gentlemen, Bogdan Bogdanovic is here. I said it a couple of days ago. He's the X factor. It seems like it's going that direction. We didn't have Ben Simmons. We didn't have Kawhi. Second out of a back-to-back, load management. He's officially missed 43 games, which means that he will not play even half the season. But let me tell you something. Bogey, he's starting to come around. And it feels like he's the X factor because whenever we play well, it seems like we win. Whenever he doesn't play well, it seems like, especially without Norman Powell, we lose. He had by far, head and shoulders, his best game as a Clipper against the Heat, and it happened for 4 quarters. He started in place of Kawhi Leonard. We still had Chris Dunn in there, James in there, Zoo in there, and Nico in there, and Bogey was just incredible. 30 points. Yes, you heard that correctly. 30 points to lead the way for us. 10 rebounds. 4 assists, while he and James Harden combined for 8 turnovers, and that was no good, literally half our turnovers. There was still so much good from those guys, and I'll talk about Zoo and James Harden next, but Bogey, 11 for 16 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and 4 of 4 from the line. And there's shots that not everybody on our team can make nor create. Deep threes, floaters, getting in the lane, in pick and roll. This is the guy where if we make this trade, we do win the trade. If this is the guy we're getting, we win this trade. I love Terrence, man. He's my favorite Clipper in the last couple of years, but he is not better than a great version of Bogey. We know this because Bogey was almost a 6th man of the year, and I love Terrence to death, but he's never been that close to that kind of status. Bogey's been one of the better 6 men in the league for a couple of years now. He's had this slump with the Hawks this year, and you saw in the beginning of his first couple of games as a Clipper, but he's really starting to turn it on. In this game, he hit the ground running. He was guarding Davion Mitchell. Chris Dunn was guarding Tyler Hero. Nico was guarding Kel'el Ware is his name, I believe. Yep, Kel'el Ware. And then Zubac on Bam Adebayo. Harden on Andrew Wiggins. On the other side, Davion Mitchell on James Harden. Bam on Zubac. And Hero on Bogey. And immediately we got him going by trying to put him in the action against James Harden, meaning that we wanted to see how the Miami Heat would react to James Harden putting Tyler Hero in the pick and roll. And what ended up happening was Hero was switching on to him, but they did not trust him one-on-one on an island with James. So everybody would load up. Everybody would help. They were getting ready to double, and that would leave Bogey open. So that got him going right away from the jump. We went on, and by the way, both bigs were in drop coverage, Zoo and Bam. And Tyler Hero was getting some floaters throughout the game and walk-in threes. Same with Duncan Robinson, just based on our scheme. So whenever that happens, when guys are just walking into threes in drop coverage, it's kind of what the defense wants. But what they want is the guy that's at the point of attack to do as good of a job as you can getting around that screen to be in that rear view contesting. But sometimes the screen is just too good and it's hard to get around it, especially against an NBA body. So you might need the big to just come up a little bit more in that drop, at least where you're contesting. You don't want them to just walk in a three. So that's how they were kind of staying in the game. And for a little stretch towards the end of that third quarter, I believe, or beginning of that third quarter, they were starting to make some contested threes, Miami. But we went on a 15-4 run, and when the Miami Heat went to their weird zone, and they're the team in the NBA that likes to play this weird zone, it's not like a traditional 2-3. And I said a couple of episodes ago, if I were teams, I would go 2-3 more against the Clippers or zone more against the Clippers because we can get very stagnant and we don't seem to put always a guy in the high post where you need to put a guy to break the zone down. But the Heat do this weird zone that's like a guy sitting at the nail behind the initial defender. And we did a pretty good job just passing it to the wing and attacking the gaps. And you know who was really confident attacking those gaps and making plays? Bogey. Getting into the seams, dropping it off to Zoo, getting into his floater. You know, he really can hit from 3 levels. Doesn't seem like there's a spot that he's super uncomfortable with. So that's really, really great to see. And it lasted throughout the entire game, honestly. In the third quarter to begin the second half, Bogey had 8 straight points. One of them was a deep-ass 3 and had 2 assists in a row to Zoo and then hit 2 free throws. So essentially, he was involved in the first 14 points of the third quarter. And after he came back in the fourth quarter, he continues to just fry. Big threes, getting in the lane, doing a little bit of everything. If this is the Bogey that we can get, we are in business, Clipper Nation. This is a better player than Terrence Mann. 30 points, clearly his career high. Was Clipper career high. He's coming off a game where he was 3 for 9, but before that, he was 3 for 5 in the overtime win against Sacramento. In the game before that, he had 8 points, 12 rebounds against the Knicks in a win. And then before that was the game that started it really, 23 points against the Pistons. So in the month of March, he's actually averaging 15 points a game on 49, 43, 100 splits. So if we just take the month of March, he's looking real good. And if we combine his numbers as a Clipper overall, he's shooting 44% from the field and 35 from 3. A couple more good games, because the sample size is only 14 games. A couple more good games, and you're going to see that percentage start looking like the percentage from previous years, which is 37, 40, closer to 37 to 40% from deep. And if we can get that, it can be really helpful considering how badly we've been shooting lately. But coming up, going to be talking about a guy who might just be top 5 in his position now. I got to tell you a little something about TurboTax. Let me tell you something about it. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at turbotax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates and only an iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at turbotax.com/guarantees. I got to tell you a little something about Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right. Back talking about the Clippers getting this really nice bounce back win over the Miami Heat on the second night of a back-to-back without Kawhi Leonard, 119 to 104 at the Kaseya Center. Now the Clippers move on to 36-30 on the season with just 16 games left. Ladies and gentlemen, we are reaching the final stages of the season, and it's crazy to think about. The Miami Heat, something about them, they're not a good offensive team. They haven't been for many years, and of course, they made the trade for Jimmy Butler. They now have Andrew Wiggins. It's really a Tyler Hero-led team. But you would think, isn't it Bam Adebayo's team? And let me just say, I thought he was so dead silent in this game. He was doing nothing. 7 shot attempts? Like, what? Is this the guy that was on the U.S. Olympic gold medal winning team that was considered the third best center in the NBA the last couple of years behind Jokic and Embiid? This year, he's averaging 18 and 10. Those aren't bad numbers. But you know what he's doing this year? He's shooting 3 threes a game, and he's never shot even 1 3 a game, and he's shooting 31%. So Bam Adebayo is clearly one of those guys that doesn't really have a long-range jumper. I think his range ends at about 15 feet, and that's fine. He's got to embrace that more. But he's one of those guys that probably just shouldn't be shooting threes. It's clearly not helping his game. He's shooting 4% worse on the year. He's shooting a career low in field goal percentage, and Jimmy Butler's off the team. He's averaging 18 and 10, and he's in his prime at 27 years old. I mean, he's got to be better, clearly. And you know who I think might be better? I mean, this is definitely premature for me to say that. But Zubac, if you just watch that game and you knew nothing about their reputations, Zubac dogged him. He completely obliterated him. He destroyed him on the glass. He had way more aggression around the basket. Now, granted, James Harden is his point guard, and he gave him some great entry passes. The pick-and-roll chemistry with Zoo and Harden is sublime. I've had Harden stans tell me, the 1% that I can tolerate, tell me that they like Zoo even more than Capella. And Harden and Capella pick-and-roll was one of the most lethal actions in basketball for those years. As much as I hate Mike D'Antoni teams, the Harden Capella pick and roll was lethal. Now, Zubac isn't the vertical threat that Clint Capella was, but he has such great touch around the basket that Harden can drop it off to him. If he's in the paint with any kind of space, he's throwing up the jump hook. And you know what Harden doesn't get enough credit for? And it goes into the field goal percentage misses. And this is why stats are not everything. It doesn't just apply to James, by the way, but if James or somebody blows by their man, gets the defense to commit, misses a shot that they probably should have made, but because they've drawn in several defenders, their teammate can now follow it up on the offensive glass because their man has then vacated their body to help on James Harden. That is a good miss. That is something that is not a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, if you don't get the rebound, yes, you should have made it, but it's not always that simple. If you miss and somebody on your team gets the rebound, it's likely because that person had to rotate. And James had a lot of those moments in this game. Zubac's cleanup crew to the max. It was fantastic. But his aggression around the basket, his rim protection, his consistency this year. And without Norman Powell and Kawhi, it's the Zoo and Harden show, the Zuno show. You know what I'm saying? And then you need someone else because James and Zoo are going to do their thing for the most part. You need someone else to step up. That guy was bogey, but he also got some help from Nico and Amir and Derrick Jones Jr. I'll talk about them later. But Zoo, it's kind of insane how easily he's getting these double-doubles, but these 20 and 10 kind of nights. He was dominating down low offensively on the offensive glass. Jump hook city. In the beginning of the second quarter, we went on an 11-3 run. That was mostly led by Nico with his passing, Zoo with everything he was doing, running the floor well. The amount of times that Zoo is just coming down the floor and sealing anybody, he's starting to have that thought in his brain, oh yeah, if anybody under 6'9" is guarding me, barbecue, Croatian, chicken. Somebody said Zoo Shack doesn't roll off the tongue. I agree with that. I just obviously BS'd it because some people called him, Zubac, as it mispronunciation. Someone said Zoo Alcindor, but I refuse to call make references to Kareem's birth name just because, I'm a Muslim man. I'm respectful of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he doesn't want to be called that, even as a joke. But whatever you want to call him, if it's a Zubac, what is it, Zukiel O'Neal, Zual Sindor, whatever you want to call him. The reason why I go with Shaq is because of the areas that he operates in. Kareem had much more range from 15 feet. I've seen Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the night during quarantine. I was watching his playoff games against the Suns in 1980, and he was hitting like jab step elbow jumpers in the fourth quarter. So like that's not what Zeus, no offense. That's just not what Zeus, we're talking about Kareem there. But Shaq, he's not Shaq either, obviously, but the areas in which he operates. I would love to hear Shaquille O'Neal's take on Zoo because he's such a big man guy. He obviously is getting he's been getting a lot of ished for his ignorant take on the Pistons. I mean, we know Shaq doesn't pay attention to the regular season NBA, but I would love to hear his opinion on Zoo because he's an old-fashioned post-up big. Jump hook with either hand. Like, that's what Diesel likes. So I'm interested to see that. He always takes his shot at the Clippers because he's a Laker legend, but whatever. But Zoo's just been amazing. 15 points for him in the first half. 15 points for Harden in the first half. But that dunk he had in the third quarter with such authority. Remember when I used to say that you can always tell what mood Zoo is in with his body language and how he's dunking the ball, how he's attacking the rim? He's playing with so much confidence right now, and a lot of it has to do with coaching staff. A lot of it has to do with James Harden and just his natural progression. He's a crown jewel. He's the longest tenured Clipper. He is my favorite player on the team, and he still is not great at guarding guys in the perimeter. Just didn't want to let him off the hook and say he was perfect. He's still not great guarding on the perimeter. But like, I'm picking, nitpicking on that one. He's been insane. Like, I don't even know what to say. Let's read his stat line in this one. 26 and 14, 1 assist, 2 turnovers on 12 for 16 shooting, 75%. 2 for 3 from the foul line, 38 minutes. Ivica Zubac is averaging 16 and 12 and a half on 62% shooting. Is he a top 5 center in the league? Let me know in the comments because Bam does not look better right now. But you know what? Because it's just a 1-year sample size and Bam is still averaging good stats, I'll say Bam is still better. But is Zoo top 5 now? Gobert is not better than Zoo anymore. I'm sorry. He just doesn't have the touch at all. I would put Zoo behind Karl-Anthony Towns. Embiid's not playing this season, but Embiid, Jokic, Karl-Anthony Towns, Bam, and then Zoo. Who else? Jared Allen, he'd be a good candidate. Chet Holmgren. I guess Wemby. So maybe he's 6th. Let me know in the comments. I'll let you guys debate. But coming up, going to be talking about the man who is leading the charge on a nightly basis, running the offense, and had the Heat defense in fits. Going to be talking about 13 strippers James Harden coming up. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. March Madness is here, and FanDuel's giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. I've got my eye on a few underdogs this year. Psych! UCLA and USC women are the teams to watch. If you're anywhere in the LA area, I don't care if you didn't go to both. I don't care if you like one or the other. They're both going to be must-see TV. Juju Watkins, Lauren Betts, they've got their squads ready for a big-time run after their first years in the Big Ten. And why am I talking about the women's one more than the men's? Because in LA, it seems like that's what we're talking about more of, to be honest with you. But yeah, visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long for the men's and women's NCAA tournament. It's almost time to dance. Just go to FanDuel.com. Clipper Nation, we're back. 36 and 30. The Clippers get the W. 36 and 30 is our record after the 119-104 W against the Miami Heat. James Harden is playing some really good basketball. I mean, of course, he's been great this season, 22, 6, and 9 on the year. But these last couple of games, since really the Phoenix game, and even though he had 21 and 15 in that game, just a rough close for him, this last 5-game stretch where we've gone 4-1, it's been the Harden show. 50 against Detroit, 27 and 7 against New York, 29 and 11, and basically carried us down the stretch against Sacramento. 25-17 in the loss to the Pelicans. And now 24, 8, and 11 to go along with 2 steals, one of which was at the end of the second half or second quarter and end of the third quarter and led to a Derrick Jones Jr. alley-oop. He's really been spectacular, and I've mentioned it a couple pods in a row. This is right around that time last year where he started kind of dipping and getting fatigued, and got somebody like Bogdan Bogdanovic being able to take some, like in the beginning of that third quarter, really letting Harden just chill for a sec. That's very important. But given Kawhi being out for so long and the workload that he's had, it's really amazing that he's still trudging on like this. And yeah, his shooting splits aren't great. They really haven't been great all season. But he's averaging 27, 5, and 11 in the month of March, Clipper Nation. 41, 34, 81 splits. Okay, but 27, 5, and 11? For a 35-year-old carrying the load like this? I mean, this is really, I kid you not, and I did not think we'd get here. But I'm not going to say it definitively, only because since I lost my house and it's been a big time shit show the last couple of months, I have not been able to watch teams that are not Clippers and Lakers consistently. So I couldn't tell you who I'd have on my All-NBA teams. All I know is obviously you're going to have SGA, Embiid, SGA, Jokic, Giannis, and Tatum. Probably first team All-NBA. You'll probably get LeBron in there somewhere. You'll get Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns. But honestly, James Harden has a case over someone like a Steph Curry. Damian Lillard's probably going to be in the mix somewhere. He's having a good bounce back year. Halliburton's starting to pick it up now. But Harden, he has a really good case. I don't think Ja's in that conversation this year with Harden. De'Aaron Fox is not in that conversation this year with Harden. Is he All-NBA? I know Clipper fans and Harden fans are going to say yes in the comments because we're not watching other teams like that. But let me know, who's in the conversation. I'll let you guys debate amongst yourselves. But really, he's got a case, and this would be an amazing accomplishment for him. But what a game for James, nearly a triple-double. And as I said, he was going at hero and taking advantage of how much they were loading up, had some great entry passes, had some great pocket passes to Zoo, even had some alley-oops to Drew Eubanks. And we got some Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills minutes in this one. Patty Mills was just 2 minutes, nothing to report there. But Drew Eubanks, 9 minutes, had 6 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist, and 1 turnover, and shot 3 for 3 from the field, and he was a +8 in his 9 minutes. So honestly, he was serviceable. Second half, we were hedging on the screens with Hero because he was getting too many easy pull-ups and stuff and floaters. So that was just an adjustment that we made. But James, I thought he had some great lob passes, great entry passes, and I mean, it was just such a solid game from him. A 10-2. So the way the third quarter went was Bogey made that initial run. He called a timeout when we were up 67-56. Then after the timeout, Wiggins led them to a 9-2 run. A lot of their runs just came when we turned the ball over. Like when Bogey and Harden would start turning the ball over, they took advantage of that and got back into it. Sometimes Duncan Robinson made a couple of threes. But after they made that little punch back after Bogey's third quarter run, it was a 10-2 run, or 10-2 run by us, led by James, and he was picking on that Larson kid from Sweden, and every time he would miss after getting by him, Zoo would follow it up. So James, I thought he just did a really great job getting into the paint, constantly making plays, knocking down the step back, and just putting constant pressure on the defense. He shot just 30% from the field, 6 for 20, but his 3-ball wasn't too bad, 3 for 8. 9 for 13 from the foul line, though, is a little peculiar. His free throw shooting, has been solid this year, but compared to normal, still 87%. That's crazy. It feels like he hasn't been 87%, but he has, so more power to him. But yeah, not a great free throw shooting night there for James, but I honestly think outside of those 3 guys, we got some really good stuff from Amir Coffey in this one, really knocking down shots. And I've been critical of him, especially on the road shooting the ball, but he had 13 points in this one on 5 for 7 shooting and 3 for 4 from 3. And a lot of those came in the second half when we needed it. So that was really big time. And some of them were contested mid-ranges as well. Thought Derrick Jones Jr. was awesome. His off-ball defense is so good. Seems like he gets to every 50-50 ball and is super alert on those kinds of plays. Always has his hands in the mix, it seems. But yeah, he was awesome. He finished with 8 points, 4 rebounds, a steal, 2 turnovers on 3 for 3, 100% shooting, 1 for 1 from 3. 1 for 4 from the foul line. So our free throw shooting wasn't great. We shot just 67% from the line, 16 for 24. They shot 10 for 14 from the line. So we got there 10 more times. A lot of that's because James Harden got there 13 times. So almost as much as their entire team. Hero had 31 points. Wiggins had 22. They ended up shooting 48% from the field. We shot 59. So really great night for us. And then this is the kicker for us. 38% from three for them. 48% for us. We only shot 27 threes, but we were really shooting them at a high percentage. So that's really great considering, what we've looked like lately. And I thought this was just a great example of a game where we were up 10 in the first quarter. They hung around, but we never let them take the lead, and we outscored them 35-32 in the third and 27-20 in the fourth. A good defensive team like us is not going to really have problems with a mediocre to bad offensive team like them. We even got some Jordan Miller minutes for 7 of them. He had 2 points, 1 for 1 shooting. Chris Dunn gave us 4 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a turnover on 2 for 3 shooting, and played over 24 minutes. So you know what that means. Defensive team thing is still alive. And Nico Batum had some big shots. He was 2 for 6 from 3, and all his shots were threes, but he hit some big shots, played some solid defense, moved the ball. 33 minutes for Nico, and he just continues to produce and help us win games when he's getting more minutes, like I asked. So really good stuff. We return home for a game we're playing against the Hawks on Friday, and then we return home for the rescheduled game against the Hornets that was supposed to occur when all the fires were going on. So good win. Really good win. Bogey, Zoo, Harden leading the way. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Make sure you sign up for the Locked On Clippers newsletter at LockedOnDaily.com. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.